Hey everybody, welcome to the Friday 3D Printing Community Hangout. Tonight we have some special guests, they're ready to go. So we want to go ahead. Friday 3D Printing Community Hangout. Hold on. Tonight we have some special guests. Echo.
That's your fault.
Yeah, that was my fault that time. Tonight we have some special guests. IC3D it has graciously invited us all into their filament manufacturing facility and 3D printing facility to show us how an actual extrusion line runs. Sean is going to operate the line for us tonight. What we're going to do is a little bit different than what we normally do. We're going to do the intros for the panel, and then we're going to go right to IC3D, and they're basically going to run the first part of this show. We have Sean and Michael are both going to be bouncing back and forth and explaining what it is they do, how the line works, and once all that's said and done and they get to a point where the line's up and running on its own, then we'll be able to start asking questions from both the panel and from the chat. So for those of you in the chat, go ahead and post questions as you come across something. I'll do my best, and the rest of the panel will do their best to keep up with the questions so that we can hopefully get as many of them answered as possible. So let's go ahead and we'll get started with the intros. Dave, go ahead. You're up.
Hey, David Randolph, one of the owners over at Printed Solid. We're a IC3D reseller, so of course, you know, got to have all the fun. You can find us over printedsolid.com, on Twitter at Printed Solid, Facebook Printed Solid, Instagram Printed Solid. Anywhere the two words printed and solid come together, that's where you can find us.
All right, Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard Murray, and the channel is the ZDIM channel. I try to focus on 3D printing for model trains, although it's becoming more of 3D printing for hobbies. Using 3D printing as a tool, I can be found at on the ZDIM channel or ZDIM17 on social media. You can see the info down here.
All right, and that turns us over to Sean. And like I said, everybody, IC3D is going to run the beginning of the show. So the rest of us probably won't say too much. Go ahead, Sean.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm an extrusion operator and the community manager at IC3D. This is Michael Cow, the founder of IC3D, holding the camera. So today we are going to be running the line. I'm going to be producing 1.75 millimeter green ABS, and we'll be making one 20-pound spool or 10-kilo spool of that.
Hi, this is Michael Cow. I was asked to join you guys. I'm gracious to be here. I'm going to give you a quick inside look at our facilities. So go ahead and do that.
You want me to hold that?
No, it's fine. Okay, so started some quick background. I started IC3D in 2012. It was a basement hobby, building rep wraps. I think that first year I did 50 or 60. Sold some on eBay, put a lot in local schools and museums and such. And then 2013 started manufacturing filament. Still doing all this on the side until about 2016. Got more serious, left the day job in the corporate world, and I went to IC3D full time. Got a couple partners, started building the team, got a lot more serious. And then last year we finally moved into a bigger facility. We were in a bunch of small little shops and closets before, but right now we're in about a 10,000 square foot facility, and yeah, we've been here about a year and a half. So if that's okay, I'm just going to walk you through some of the office space and kind of talk to you, show you kind of the different areas of the business. So I'm actually, behind me is actually the back of the building. This is the high bay area. That's about 2/3 or so of the full building. Right here is our print service shop. So I'll I'll give you a little up close and personal on some of the stuff going on there. So right now, kind of walking to the front of the building. I'm gonna switch cameras here, going to the front, just showing you the lobby real quick. We call it the room of display because we display stuff, and it's kind of where we play. This is kind of what it typically looks like in the evening, weekends. It's kind of, I don't know, we call it a turnkey party mode. Try to relax and work on various projects. So when a customer comes in, this is kind of what they see. I'll turn on these office lights real quick. Hydroponic system. We're going to incorporate some 3D printing elements. This is a partnership with a local, hydroponics, aquaponics company. So kind of see a display shelf full of some trinkets and various customer parts. Half of these are kind of non-industrial and the other half are industrial. Kind of the rest of the facilities there. All of our furniture is open source from Open Desk, I believe. Local school cut these for us. There's the arcade machine from James Cameron, Print and Play. This is a Fallout 4 T60. It's nearly all 3D printed, about 100 pounds of PLA. One of our customers, a big cosplayer, Yasu Tano, wanted to pursue this project, and long story short, we ended up sponsoring it, and he retired it, so it's on display in our lobby. Open source coffee table we designed and printed. This is a main conference room with where we have more of the kind of industrial sample parts. We work with mainly manufacturers from various industries like automotive, people building fire trucks, aerospace, and so forth. There's the 20-inch wheel that we've taken to MRF and ERF and other events. So now I'll walk back to the room of manifesting. So wordplay between manufacturing and manifesting. So our print service right now has about 20-something printers. This is our largest one. Her name is Norma. She's about 39 inches cubed, about a cubic meter. Back in this corner, there's about a dozen desktops. Most of them are Lulzbots, TAS 6s and minis. We've got some G-Create, some FormBots, some, yeah. So some of them have makeshift heater chambers, as you can see. Various things going on right now. We're actually printing a lot of architecture models because that's the season right now. A lot of local architecture students coming to us. Right there, these are 4 kind of medium-sized printers. We mostly designed and built. They're about 24 by 30 tall, printing various things. Let's see here. Another architecture model. Most of the time, I have no idea what's printing. Here's a little kind of side project we were doing. This is a printer with 5 heads. So it's basically just like what you would think. It's a 1 master and 4 followers. This is about fully loaded. This is about 50 kg, about 10 kg spools. So that's kind of fun. Over here, we're building 4 larger printers. These, when they're done, they'll be 48 by 48 by 42 tall. We're doing 4 of these at the same time. To be clear, we do not sell hardware at the moment. We mainly design and build hardware for internal use to solve a problem for a customer. So you can see those guys. It's going to be all lead screw driven. So the Z will have 4 lead screws. It'll be IDEX. So the gantry there is designed to hold the two X screws. Slides like so. And so this area is where the filament production is. So this is kind of the finish of the operation where packaging, respooling happens. And you see Sean right there, kind of setting some stuff up. And when the line is, I'll flip back around here. This is the end of the line with the respooler or the filament winder. And this is where the 10 kilogram spools are produced. And back over here, we'll take those 10 kilograms and we'll respool them into 1 kilogram and 2.3 kilogram. So behind me is the wall of finished goods. So now I'm just walking you to the very back of the building, kind of where it starts and where we buy, or where we house our raw material that we buy. So we get these kind of pallet-sized containers called Gaylords. They're just under a ton, about 1,700 pounds. So this is our ABS here. So it's just virgin pellets. Looks like rice beads. And then is our PLA, the NGO NatureWorks product. Back here is PETG. And then we keep these bins when we have scrap or purge, when we have to change over the materials or colors in the line, or material that's out of spec. We'll put them back into empty containers, and we have recyclers that come and pick up the stuff. When you first get resin, it's got moisture, so you have to dry that before you start extruding. And so we put them through these Novatech desiccant dryers. So it basically blows hot air through desiccant and then up through the resin. Kind of see through there. And the boxes right there on the middle shelf, that's all the master batch. So it's all the different colors that we use to mix in with the natural resin to get all the colors we want. And then after that, they get fed into popper up there. We have two lines, and this is our newer line, what we call our line 2. Again, our material is open source. We decided to go open source a little over a year ago. A lot of that was in conversation with Lulzbot, but we shared the same values, and our belief was that the more people who know how to make filament, the more material options there are, and the better future we'll all have manufacturing, 3D printing. So there's Sean, looking ready, I think. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna let you take it away there. Okay, I'm going to be holding the camera and for Sean and narrating a little bit, but if you want to say anything before you start.
Well, so I just finished setting up the line, moving stuff around, getting everything ready to rock and roll. The bath is heated. The extrusion line, the extruder, is heated. There's 7 chambers, and all chambers are heated. And we're ready to start making some material. Are you ready? I'm ready. Okay, so we're going to start with our puller, which is the track. And we're going to get that up to speed. So we're going to start that, and we're going to pop that up to about 13, just to get it rolling. And then we'll go with the pump, which is going to be helping pull the filament out of the die. So this is our industrial extrusion. This isn't the smaller one that we have. There's more intricate things with this one than the other one. The pump I'm going to be putting at about 7. So now filament should be starting to come out of the die. And I'm going to put the screw, the hose, up to start at 10.
That's probably about a little over 5 millimeters coming out of the die right there. And that'll get pulled down to the correct size by the puller. I'll show you, let's see, I'll explain this. This is the gear pump or the melt pump. So the melt pump sits in between the extruder, which is mostly under that cover right there, and the die. And what the gear pump does is it basically controls the volumetric flow rate, because there could be inconsistencies by just the screw itself, but by having this volumetric flow control, basically, you get a much more consistent strand, and you can basically pull faster too. So you can see that coupler going there.
So as of right now, I am just taking, this is, PB is pressure. This is the pressure that is inside of the machine. And as this pressure rises, the more heat is going to be generated because the screw is turning, creating friction. So once this number starts going up, I'm going to throw it into auto when it gets to 15. So as of right now, that's all I'm doing at this point. It's boring. Bear with me.
I'll just make people look at you.
That's fine.
There you go. There's an over-the-shoulder shot of you.
Beautiful. Okay, so now we have it set in auto. It is going to keep the pressure inside of the machine around 14, 15 in that area. It should keep it at a constant 15 in just a moment.
Megapascals.
Megapascals, yes. MPa.
Show you another screen that's kind of fun. So this is where we set all the heat temperatures of all the different zones. So you can see zone 1 through 7. You'll see the little fire icon. That means it's, you know, just like PID, it turns on, kicks on when it needs to. Also see a little blower icon when it wants to cool. So seven zones. So basically, zones one to 3 are heating the barrel of the screw. Zone 4 is this guy, which is where the breaker plate is. Basically, that's where we separate and to take off to clean the filter. There's a little metal, like a steel mesh filter in there. So all of this is zone 4 right here. And then the melt pump, this gearbox thing right here, there's zone 6 and 7. And then, I'm sorry, 5 and 6. And then zone 7 is the die.
So we're about to cut this. So we go scoop, pull, ready. Then you snatch it and you pull them along. Very slowly. Very gently.
So this is stringing up the line. It pretty much has to be done at the beginning of the shift, beginning of the day, because you're basically trying to take melted material there and feed it eventually through the puller, which is going to pull. It's like the drummer in the band. It's gonna keep the beat of everything, and that's how you tune in your size. So this water bath is heated water. That's the water, kind of the industrial water heater right there. So Sean is hooking up. It's going to get a little loud, but I'll step back for a minute. He said that is the air wipe or the air knife. Purpose of that is to blow all the water off of the line. Sorry, it's going to get loud as I walk past this thing. But that's the air wipe right there. That guy is our laser gauge. So it's a dual axis laser gauge. That's the puller. So as you see, it's just dumping it on the floor right now because Sean is going to tune everything and make sure that the reading on the laser gauge on our app, the filament's going to be in spec before he starts putting it onto a spool. So while he's setting things up, this is what the app looks like. It's basically, the laser gauge is basically taking two measurements and 90 degrees apart. So you kind of get an X and Y measurement. And so that outputs it real time there. And then it also, so it calculates the average diameter, but also gets us the ovality or roundness. We get that in terms of a percentage.
Hey, Michael or Sean, can you guys hear me? This is Chris.
Yeah.
I had a good question in the room. Jim was asking what is your spec tolerance on the filament diameter?
Right. So our spec tolerance, we advertise plus minus 0.05. Internally, we keep that. Our internal spec is plus minus 0.03. Oftentimes it's averaging 0.025.
Pretty respectable. Also, there's a question earlier. I think it was from Robbie. They were looking for some examples of things that you've services or jobs that you've done in for commercial space print wise. I pointed out the wing that you did for the rally car, but maybe you have some other examples that would be worth sharing.
Yeah, sure. Sean's still setting up, so I'll walk you to that sample room, and I'll show you a couple more industrial things that we do. So just take a minute. Turn you back around. So we do, we work with a lot of automotive manufacturers, and so we're literally prototyping car parts for them, like this, and so that they can build up, a whole. Looks like this is part of a door panel. This is we've done a lot of vacuum form molds. We've done probably 50 or 60 this past year. This is an example. So this is printed out of PC PBT. And so this was something that our customer vacuum formed over. And let's see here. This is made from DuPont High Trail. This is we do this for a tire manufacturer. And we'll print this thing as a full circle. That's about 3 feet in diameter, but it has this hexagon pattern. And let me see if I can arrange my phone to show you kind of how this behaves. You guys see that? So this is made for Humvees, off-road vehicles like ATVs and commercial lawnmowers, airless, so it's puncture proof technically. So we do those prototypes. This is a part before support is removed. These go to a local company that makes fire trucks, Sutphen. And so the products are going straight from our printers to their assembly lines, and they're assembling it onto their customers' products. We do a lot of jigs and fixtures like this. So a lot of things that just go into factories. This is a stamping mold that we've done. We've formed about 1 millimeter thick aluminum over it. This is hydroformed. What's interesting is you can actually see the 3D printed lines pressed into this sheet of aluminum because it was formed at 11,000 PSI.
Michael, do you know what material that was printed out of? Was it PLA, ABS?
Yeah, this was an initial experiment. This was an 80% infill PLA. So this is just literally a brick of plastic. Yeah.
Nice.
This is a 20-inch wheel we print for a wheel manufacturer customer. So we do these in one shot, and it takes about 4 days. And then after that, we take it to we partner with a local body shop, and they prime, sand, paint, and make it look like showroom finish. And our customer uses it as like a design confirmation piece before they kick off tooling. Before they cut the checks for 10, 20 million to retool their factory. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Hey, with that vacuum forming, what material were you guys using for that? Because that's got some heat problems. I was just curious if that's something that you guys are dealing with.
Yeah, so so far our customers have been doing the forming. We're not forming experts, and we don't have that equipment in-house. But some of the one customer does mascots. They do costumes and things like that as a professional business, and they form. I think it's about eighth inch thick ABS sheet. So that's able to handle what they need. They usually don't do more than like 5 shots. It could probably handle a lot more. Another customer forms 1/4 inch ABS. And for that customer, we actually coat it with kind of a 2-part epoxy to help with that heat resistance. And they typically form up to just 3 pieces off of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going to make sure Sean didn't get wrapped up in the filament?
Yeah. Yeah, that's he's usually doing this at like 8 in the morning and not 10:30, so making sure he doesn't fall asleep at the wheel here.
We appreciate you guys firing up a line and showing us the behind the scenes of it.
Oh no, we're happy to. So okay, so this is what it looks like when right when we started. I mean, the dots are all over the place, as you can imagine, right? And so this is what Sean's trying to do. He's trying to see, that's plotting real-time data, and as you can see, that black line is nominal, and the red is our plus or minus 0.05 boundary. Here's a grouping that's about 0.025, 0.03. But so it is under spec at the moment. So he's going to be slowing down the puller to have that creep up to the nominal. And it's not an instantaneous thing. You tweak it, and then you kind of have to wait, a few minutes for things to adjust. So it is a process.
Let me ask you about your open source initiatives, because you guys are doing your filament. Are you doing anything else towards that goal, or?
So the question is about the open source initiatives. Yeah, so we're gonna keep releasing material. The open sourcing is per material. So we do the white paper essentially and all the settings and parameters for one material, and that's certified. And then we move on to the next material and the next material. So we started off with just ABS because that's what Lulzbot was using. And then we, several months later, we did our PLA. And we just started making PETG this year. So we immediately kind of put those settings out and updated the certs. So yeah, that's our plan. We're gonna keep, we're just gonna keep open sourcing the material. And it's not, sometimes it's different equipment. And so we'll try to include all that. And sometimes it's just different settings. Just like when you print ABS and PLA, they like completely different things, right? One likes nice and toasty, one likes nice and cold. It's like a married couple. So it's the same thing when we're trying to make the large amounts of stuff. And we try to include that in the documentation. Maybe turn back around to Sean.
All that filament came out in the last couple of minutes?
Yeah. 175 is especially tough because we pull that much faster. And so it can be a little trickier.
What's the largest spool that you spun? Better that all that's waste rather than sent on to customers to get bad tolerances, right?
Don't want that in my machine.
Sorry, it's a little loud where I'm standing. Could you repeat that?
I was just commenting that seems like a lot of waste, but it's better that it ends up on the floor than actually on the spool, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's pretty much no way to get around it that I know of. Anytime you're manufacturing and you're starting up the process, whether it's injection molding or hydroforming or whatever, you kind of have some waste. We'd love to just hit a button and out comes perfect material, but that doesn't work.
I had Sean at my shop a couple weeks ago, and he got to see all my waste, and that made him cry a little.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is try to be responsible about how the downstream, like where it goes. We have recycling companies come and pick up material. ABS and PETG is much easier. PLA is actually very difficult to find someone to take that. It is very difficult to introduce that back into the product stream. And it's also difficult to integrate that or to blend that with other plastics.
You might have to share who's doing your PLA recycling, because I've been looking over here on the East Coast.
I'll have to get that for you. It's someone local. So Sean has got that strung up. So that's a traverse mechanism there that goes back and forth at the rate we set. And we change the rate, of course, depending on 1.75 or 3.
Now, does your rate change as the spool gets fuller?
No, it doesn't. It's typically works out okay. Let me show you what the screen looks like.
So that's a 10 kilogram spool. How long approximately does that take to spin 10 kilogram?
There's fluctuation here in the variables. So the water in the bath is getting colder because I had turned the water down because it was too hot. And then the extruder is also producing heat. So it will drop it with heat. and then it will bring it up. The slower you pull the filament through, the higher the diameter is going to get. The faster you pull it through, the lower it's going to get. So I'm playing with heat and I guess force right now, pulling the filament. So I'm trying to get it up so that it is stable along this line. So that's the game I'm playing right
now. How long does a 10 kilogram spool take to spin?
So this is the part, everything's strung up, everything's rolling. We're spooling it, and everything's logged and marked. And so now, as this is going, I'm going to keep adjusting it as the time goes by. It'll get stable. It'll get to a point where it's stable, and then it's hands off at that point. You just let it do its thing. So right now, I'm just adjusting settings and getting everything to the correct spot.
Sean, what is your time frame for a 10 kilo?
Go to a more quiet area and back there.
Yeah,
and field some questions.
Yeah, I think they're having where they're at, it's really noisy, so I think they're having a hard time hearing us.
If you've ever hung out with Sean for a little bit, you know that's true. He's loud, really, really loud.
Yeah.
See, look at this. We're only 45 minutes into the stream, and Sean's already getting taken to the office.
Yeah. All right, he gets to stand in front of T60 here. Yeah, we'll do it in front of T60.
Yeah, let's
there you go. You guys got to bring that to a show.
Oh, yeah, it's heavy.
I bet.
It's guts. And it's kind of crumbling.
So when you're spinning a 10 kilogram spool, how long does that take from the time you string it up onto the spool till you have a full spool?
It depends on diameter, but mostly probably about 45 minutes to an hour around there for both diameters, just in general.
What's your setup time before? I know, Sean, you got started before the stream because the extrusion line has to heat up and everything and come up to temp. The water bath has to come up to temp. What's your startup time in the morning, roughly?
So in the morning, it's normally it depends. On a Monday, after it's been sat over the weekend, it takes over an hour to heat up because the bath is down to 40 C. During the week, it takes probably half hour to an hour.
Okay.
And one of the big things we're working on is just more and more automation in our process. Automation and IoT. We've almost got the got the water heater will turn on at 5 in the morning, for example. The line will self-tune itself based on the data from the laser gauge, stuff like that.
Okay. Does anybody in the panel have questions before I start taking some of the ones from the chat?
Yeah, I was curious about what's your how much do your parameters change between summer, winter, rainy day, dry day out?
They change. They certainly change a little bit. In terms of some quantifying it, probably just a couple percentage.
That was my big question.
Chris, how about you?
I've got two. Michael, the big 5-hit printer. It was nice to see a tease of that. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Sean showing a picture of it. Any chance in configuring that so it does a collaborative print like the stackers, or is that not possible?
So I'll say it was very purpose built for a customer project who wanted. They initially wanted, I think it was 25,000 pieces of something. And it was a piece that took about 2.5 hours to produce. And so we they gave us a few months to see if we wanted to do it, and so that was kind of our solution that we're experimenting with. Just having a bunch of desktops isn't really a good process. It still takes a lot of labor. It's difficult to get all that automated. So it's hard to make that cost effective and compete against something like injection molding, for instance. So yeah, right now it's only designed to print the same thing.
Very cool. Okay.
It's like collaborative on a big piece.
As you said before, machines very purpose built for the task at hand. So the other question I have for you is, you're a filament guy. What's your favorite filament from a production standpoint? And also, what's your favorite filament from a printing standpoint when you, well, maybe you go home on the weekend and print something?
Oh, I don't print anything at home. I'm basically here almost 24/7.
When you have printers that big, you don't need to print anything at home.
Yeah. It's like when I go home, I sometimes don't want to see a printer, you know? But what's your favorite material to print with? I mean, to extrude.
My favorite
big lines.
PETG.
PETG? Okay.
PETG is my favorite to extrude. And the reason for that is just because it comes out nice. It doesn't smell. I don't have to worry about VOCs and all that stuff. And it's just nice. Like when you string it up, it doesn't burn your hands. Like ABS is like really friction oriented. Like when you grab it with your hand, and when you let it run through your hand, it'll burn your it'll burn your hand. You'll get scrapes and cuts and bruises and whatnot. But PETG, I haven't had that problem with yet. So it's just a real nice material to print with and to extrude. So I enjoy that.
I'd say in our we consume about 20 to 25% of what we produce. We get high off our own supply, some people say. In our print service, the print service also consumes a lot of glass-filled materials, like glass-filled polypropylene, glass-filled nylons, other materials that we don't make, that we buy from companies who are doing a lot of exotic materials, like the PC based ones. We print with a lot of DuPont High Trail lately for customer projects, but it's hard to say a favorite between the PLA, ABS, and PETG. They all really serve their own purpose.
Yeah, everything has its place, and it depends on what you want to print, what you want to use it for, and there's no best, really. It's like, what are you using it for, and what is going to serve your purpose for your print.
Cool, thanks.
So with your customers, how many come in actually knowing the materials they want to work with, and how much do you find yourself actually having to like support them and talk?
Yeah, so the dream, I think the dream for every service bureau is like 99%. Our actuality is about 2%. Yeah, they won't know the material, settings, anything. So it's a very consultative process, like back and forth. So we have 5 mechanical engineers that help our customers figure out, what will meet their specs.
Do you guys do design for your customers as well, or do your customers mostly come to you with a part already designed?
Yeah, we also do design. There's some folks who come in with a napkin sketch. Some folks who come in with a product, and they're exploring printing as their production method, and so we're going back and forth to help them modify their product in order to reduce cost, make it stronger or whatnot, explore different materials and settings to get them what they need at their price point. And this is from single person inventors to big companies.
Richard, did you have any questions?
Yeah, when you're doing a production run, say one color of PLA, are you doing that run for a day, a week? How long does that take?
Honestly, it really just depends on what the demand for it is at that time. So if, say, we have to run, which we did, black ABS 3 millimeter, and the demand is off the yin yang for it, we're producing it for 2 days, 3 days, maybe a whole week. But sometimes it's like we'll run 4 different colors in one day, or 3 different colors in one day, or even 2. It just really depends on the month and what the demand for it is that month.
When
Based
you run,
off-
go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, based off of statistical data that we get in. But yeah.
When you guys run off a batch, so you do 1 kilogram spools, 5 kilogram, 10 kilogram. Do you always run off a 10 kilogram spool and then respool that, or do you actually run off 1 kilogram spools at a time?
No, we make 10 kilogram spools in general. That's all we make off the line. And then from that 10 kilogram, it'll get broken down into, we need this many, 5-pounders, this many 2-pounders, and then it will go on to the respooler. And then they'll make the spool off of our master spool. I gotta be careful with that word nowadays. Our big spool, our mega.
Okay. Richard, did you have any more questions too?
No, we have several good questions already up that our viewers have posted, so why don't we get into those?
Yep. All right, so this one was asked a while back from Robbie Mack. What are examples of services of the businesses that you manufacture, those large printers that you're manufacturing the large printers for? Trade shows, displays, manufacturing. What's the use cases for those big printers and what people are
yeah, so the customers that came to us that we were trying to solve this problem was there was one customer who makes pallets. I mean, they're literally injection molding plastic pallets. I don't know if you've seen, most pallets that you see are wooden, but a lot of manufacturers use plastic pallets, and this was this company's products. So he wanted to 3D print, prototype those things. The other thing was for molds. So it's basically related to tooling, jigs, and fixtures. So literally vacuum form molds that need that size.
So you're making the bucks for for them to then take and vacuum form.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one was from Jake from State Farm. He said, as far as filament making goes, can you discuss energy usage? He asks because he works in the renewable energy industry. So like running do you have the figures on like a 10 kilogram spool cost you this much in electricity?
No, that is a great question. Energy. So the short answer is no, we don't have that data. I would love that data. The longer answer is since we have about a little over a year's worth of electrical usage data now, we are working with our local electric company and a couple energy consultants to start figuring that out. The other part of that conversation, why we started that conversation, is because we are trying to figure out the best backup system for our print service. Oftentimes we have prints running for multiple days, up to 8-10 days, and so even when the electricity flickers a little bit, you guys all know that could be a big problem, and it has been a problem. Most of the time we can restart it. Sometimes we can't. So that's just going to be a bigger problem in the future. So we're trying to find a solution we can afford too.
So. Okay. Let's see. That was that one. Oh, okay. Your extrusion lines. Did you design the systems that you're using as an extrusion line, or were they bought as a kit and set up?
So for the most part, it's pretty standard equipment. In the beginning, when I was still doing this as a hobby with very limited funds, I was trying to piece together some stuff and trying to be very economical about it. tried to design and build some equipment in-house. Again, it was try to reduce the cost. But if cost wasn't an object, you could buy a complete extrusion line to make filament.
Okay, that was that one. Sorry, I've got to read down through. I have a whole list of them. Make sure I'm not asking the same thing twice.
Okay, there goes that one.
Okay, from IC3D Designs. How much does the quality change depending on Sean's cup of morning coffee?
Oh,
Man, it depends what kind of coffee it is. Hazelnut diameter goes down, but if you give me some strong stuff, it goes straight up. So,
I thought you liked hazelnut.
I do like hazelnut.
Yeah,
but it's not as strong.
All right, the next question, another one from Robbie Mack. Are your hot ends and/or nozzles custom made for your in-house print service? If not, what's your go-to for these advanced materials like nylons and glass-filled polymers?
Yeah, so it is not. We used to use, in terms of hot end, we're pretty much all on E3Ds, volcanoes. We just got one of their, is it the super volcano?
Yeah,
it's basically the double tall one. We essentially cobbled together those, kind of made our own for a while. The nozzles we pretty much use all hard nozzles from E3D. We've got, I think, half a dozen rubies around that we also use. Trying to collect some data for the glass filled stuff.
All right. Another one from IC3D Designs. What color did you print the most for Black Friday?
You know what? I think Printed Solid sold out. So I think it was even across the board.
Good answer.
I think we produced everything we produced sold. That's pretty much, I don't even know how to split that up into pounds.
I guess, yeah, that's tough.
Kilograms.
So the sales, we plan out production based on sales data. Sales data comes from what we sell directly from us and wholesale, and also we still sell some on Amazon, and that helps set our planning. So we have percentages. Black's always the highest. It's usually more than 50%.
Yeah, black's,
of everything.
Yeah,
and everything else is kind of split.
Yeah, black and white are pretty much the highest that sell, just flat out. And then everything else is just, hanging there.
All right. Next one was from Mr. Buttram. Is the unreleased construction orange PETG something that might be unreleased?
Hi. We're working on it. That was kind of an experiment that we were doing to see how close we can get to a certain type of orange without it being that type of orange, but still being that orange. I don't know how to explain that without saying stuff, but so all right. So we were trying to get as close to Prusa orange as possible without it being Prusa orange. So that was the goal. We came out with the construction orange, and the community named it construction orange because it's freaking bright. But
to be clear, it was a collaborative project.
It was a collaborative project.
Not like we were trying to sell Prusa orange.
It was, yeah. So we're trying to pretty much, it's expensive to get it overseas. So we're trying to hey, let's make it for the U.S. folks. So in doing that, we got this color, which is a shade lighter, and it looks nice too. I don't know if it's going to be released. That's kind of all of us are going to have to sit down and talk it over. From the results from Printed Solids meetup that we've gotten was everybody wants it. That was the highest rated one that I previewed there.
I want it.
So yeah, so maybe not. We'll see.
Okay. Uh,
Let's see
back to the extrusion line itself. Robbie Mack asked earlier, and I missed it. Sorry, Robbie Mack. The heaters on the extrusion line, are they gas or are they electric?
They're all.
They're all electric. They're heater band heaters. Kind of a typical thing in industrial extruders.
Okay. They were wondering because of the fact that it shows a flame for the signal for.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
I work in HVAC, and pretty much anything, if it's heating, it uses a flame as the indicator.
They like lit all the individual fires beforehand.
We need to restock up on coal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How much, with the question about the orange, how often do you guys experiment with collars? Is that something that you look at doing more frequently, or is that just kind of, you got a line that's down, it's closer to the end of the day, let's screw around with collars a little bit? How often do you do that?
So, some colors come actually from color changes. So when we go from one color to another, it'll put out a hue it'll just spit out a rainbow pretty much. And I'll look at it and be like, Matt, this is so beautiful. We should make this. And he'll be like, go for it. Try it. And I'll be like, okay. And then that's how it happens. I mean, literally, like, same voice, everything. That's how it happens. So sometimes that happens. And then sometimes companies will be like, hey, we're looking for this. Or people will be like, we're looking for this. And we'll experiment around and be like, okay, we want this color. And then we'll send it to be made. And then we'll get the master batch of that color.
So quick comment on our filament. We typically try not to do too many custom colors because it's just a lot of management for typically not a lot of volume. But for our print service, we officially offer color matching. But that's a 2-3 week process where we get it color matched with the colorant supplier, and then we have to do a trial to see if it actually matches that Pantone and so forth. And then we got to print it to make sure there's no color degradation, and our print service customer is happy.
So as for the public, as for, hobbyists and makers and all that stuff, we don't really do the custom color match for that.
Unless you're buying skids full of it.
Unless, yeah, we will do it, but the minimum order is like 45, 50 spools.
That kind of answered Robbie Mack's last question. He said, what would it take to get a custom Robbie Mack fluorescent brown? Fluorescent brown? Is there something?
Fluorescent brown.
Never mind. He has a recipe for you.
Yeah, wait till tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are there any plans to get into the filled filaments or artisanal filaments?
We have done some trials with glass filled materials, but I guess I'll say that all the stuff that we're experimenting with is for some functional purpose on the actual print. A lot of it has to do with tooling, jigs and fixtures. So with the tooling, obviously we're dealing with a lot of heat. With the jigs and fixtures, it's more about wear resistance. So the person working on the factory might be putting on a part to check on a fixture, hundreds of times a day. It could be a stamped metal piece, and so that's the critical part. The other is for thermal expansion. That's the other purpose. So the glass filled is really good for that purpose.
All right. Uncle Ron asked, how close are your collar lots from one lot to the next? So, like, I guess more so what he means is when you transition from one collar to another and then you go back to that collar, how close are the lots?
I'd say visually it's indistinguishable. We do have color master samples right by the lines, and so those are checked to make sure at the start of the production.
And hey, just to follow up on that, Sean, did I hear once that you were possibly playing with a little, and Michael, you had brought up IoT project. Sean, I think you said at one point you might have been working on a color scanner.
Yeah, so that was something that was brought up between me and Luke, the other operator, who's doing more. He does all of our IoT stuff. So another thing is sometimes the color is almost indistinguishable from each other, but we're like, that is not the right color. So we're going to be working on making a
Basically, it's a color spectrometer.
Yeah. Color spectrometer. So it'll just read the color as it goes through. It'll pop up on the screen. It'll show the Pantone. It'll show the RAL, and it'll be like, this is the correct color. And then if it's not the correct color, we won't spool it. So it's just another part of QC that we want to add to everything, including the respoolers.
I hate to say this and relay this, but it looks like our chat really wants Sean to experiment with the fluorescent brown.
I experimented with it this morning. They don't need to.
You guys can't see the chat, but Sean, you'll have to go back and check the chat.
Oh boy, I don't even want to.
From the panel, I don't have any more questions from the chat. If anybody in the chat has any more questions, go ahead and post them. If I haven't asked your question, repost it because I probably missed it. I've asked everything I have on my list. Chris, I think you have one. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your note in our chat.
It's all good.
Dave or Richard or Chris, do you guys have any other questions for IC3D?
Yeah, so Michael, looking at the industry, from your perspective, what do you see as the next thing coming? You're in the filament space. You're making your own machines. What you do is similar in some form or fashion to what all of us are doing at home, because it's all FDM. But what do you see as the next big things that might come down the FDM path that we all could be working with?
I think just in terms of anything, I mean, there's so many aspects.
Yeah, your top thing. I mean, I've had the opportunity to talk with you, offline a good bit as we were talking about EARF this year. So I have a good sense of how you look at some things, and I think it would just be good to share some of your thoughts like that with the folks here. I think people would like to hear that.
Sure. I think there's two major things that we think about a lot. The first thing is the accuracy of the print. So as we do more industrial prints, not necessarily prototypes, really more of the tooling, jigs, and fixtures, we're working with a lot of customers who actually who have the equipment to do a 3D scan, like a very high resolution 3D scan. And so you can essentially map that scan against the original CAD data and get a gradient, a color gradient chart of the difference of that. And so we're trying to nail very, very tight tolerances with that. As you all know, different types of plastic have different shrink rates. And so it's just very difficult to get dial-in settings and when geometries are all over the place. Anyway, very big project. That's one big thing we're working on. I'd say the other thing is in materials. So we're probably, just a tiny fraction of available materials, even extrusion grade materials, have been converted into 3D printing filament. There's a lot more interesting stuff out there, and we're working with various companies, partners, other filament makers, Department of Defense, to figure out more applications with these materials. Like what should we make next to print something that someone needs?
There's a good follow-up question to go along with that. Robbie Mack asked, what's the favorite service that you guys have provided to a customer? He realizes sometimes that the final product doesn't always convey the challenges you had to face to get to the final product.
I have two favorites. One is probably that pneumatic tire, the non-pneumatic tire project. That was, DuPont had just released that material maybe 2 months prior. This tire manufacturer really wanted to use that material for this project. They were searching all over the country for the combination of the size, the open materials, so that ruled out a lot of, anything that needed a proprietary cartridge, and also engineering personnel to discuss their project and tolerances and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, we printed a tire, which was cool. We printed probably 12 of them for their testing purposes. Each one took about 3 to 5 days. They were in different sizes. The second one is probably a very large costume that had a lot of vacuum form pieces. So that was new territory for us at the time. This is earlier in the year. This was new territory for our customer, and so it was just a lot of experimenting. But at the end of the day, we made a pretty cool product with them that we hope to be able to show in a couple weeks.
Cool. With your tires and stuff, like when you guys do those types of projects where it's an R&D project, how often do you get to see like footage of tests and stuff that your customer then does with them? Do they share that with you?
They do. Sometimes I'd say maybe half. Probably about, if I had to put a number to it, maybe 75% of our print service projects are under NDA or non-disclosure agreement, so we can't share anything or much about it. But sometimes, especially if there's iterations involved back and forth, we're trying to help them choose settings, materials, and so forth. They'll share a lot of data with us.
Well, I think something like the non-pneumatic tires would be neat to see. Okay, here's the thing we printed. We got to see that. Great. We understand what it's supposed to do, but here's it actually being tested out on a vehicle or something. I think that would be really cool to get to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you're building those new 4 printers. How big do you think you can realistically get with FDM printing?
So you mean like beyond the BAM size, like the beyond?
Well, you're going to what, a 48 by 48 build space.
Yeah.
So FDM, you have speed constraints since you're punching the filament through. Is double it, go up to an 8 foot by 8 foot.
In the field, there's probably the BAM systems designed by Oak Ridge and made by Cincinnati Inc. Those are what, 20 feet long or something like that, 20, 30 feet.
Oh yeah.
But I think we will probably go to that size, but it won't be it won't be like your E3D hot end, with a 1 millimeter nozzle. It'll be pellet fed. We're working with the company on larger filament, bigger drives. Things will be more coarse. You're going to start to get into the territory where you're going to need machining. But in the case of a fixture that could be 8 feet long, it could be localized machining. It could be embedding metal inserts into various parts of the plastic, things like that.
All right.
What's the biggest personal print that you have made at work for home?
One of our guys has a one of those Ford Transit, like big camper van things. He's printed he basically wants to print everything in a tiny home for that van. So he's printed shelving and
I have one of those for my work truck, so I can picture that.
yeah. He wants to print, you know, like tiny home class sinks and closets and stairs and that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
All
this question on the other end of that, what's the biggest thing you've printed that you can say? Not personal, but like as a job that you're allowed to say. What's the biggest item you've printed, size?
It was probably that mold that we took to Murph last year or earlier this year. It was about 3 feet long, probably 20 inches wide, and probably 20 inches tall. That was done as a single piece out of PLA.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Hey, Michael. So you guys rolled out PETG at IRF this past year. Tony Ryan in the room is asking any possibility of any flexibles or semi-flexibles.
We want to, but we've currently been working closely with DuPont, again using their Hytrel material. If you haven't played with it, it's pretty cool stuff. That stuff is made with the same material that CV boots are made out of, so extremely chemical resistant. And there are many grades of Hytrel. They've only made 2. We've talked about possibly making some of the other grades of that material, but it's all pretty high flex material.
And hey, follow-up question, because it's such a high flex material, would you need a different filament extruder, or would you be able to do that in what you have now?
You can do it with your standard equipment. It's not as flexible as TPU, for instance. So it's a higher durometer.
Okay.
Mr. Butcher wants to know what the percentage of your businesses for large or customers are that are large business customers versus small or single inventor customers.
I'd say probably more than half. Yeah, more than half. 50–60% are large businesses. Again, these are like your automotive manufacturers, suppliers. You know, these are north of $1 billion companies. Honeywell, Battelle, and then the other half are just a big mix of small, medium businesses, individuals, students.
All right.
Now, with that, you've already addressed how much or how little the clients know about the materials. How familiar are they getting with what 3D printing can do?
Most of the customers are still pretty low level, and a lot of times we'll tour. You know, we'll go to a customer site and walk around their factory and try to point out things that might be good candidates. And yeah, it's a slow education process for sure.
So yeah, we have a lot of training to do with industry still then.
Yeah.
Wait till those kids in grade schools that are living with 3D printers now get up into their engineering jobs.
Right. So I think up until a few years ago, 3D printing was still kind of reserved for in terms of industry, it was reserved for like the top 1%, like the Fords and Hondas and so forth. But yeah, more and more so, it's the people, it's the engineering students entering the workforce, and they're proposing these ideas.
I don't know how much you can say to this one, but you mentioned defense industry. Is military getting a hang of what 3D printing can do? I know a while back there is a good article on how the Air Force, I guess it's the Navy, it looks after aircraft carriers, found out how much standard desktop 3D printers can do on their ships, but has it gone beyond that?
Yeah, the Air Force that you brought up, for instance, have been 3D printing since I think the 60s, but so they're very advanced. They're like on the far extreme. On the other extreme, there's a lot of exploring of applications, like deploying, a container full of shop equipment, including CNCs and 3D printers, so that people on the front line can replace parts, for instance. There's that kind of, in terms of technical challenge, it might be low, but it's still a new application to explore. In the field of MRO, which is maintenance, repair, and overhaul, 3D printing is definitely applications of 3D printing for that is definitely growing really rapidly.
The cool thing about 3D printing and the military is that now we're going to be having new MOSs, new jobs, new rates for the Navy, and all these new jobs are incorporating, first line defense fab labs. And who would have ever thought, oh man, I'm going to have a fab lab on the front line? And it's like, we need this now, we need to make this. And that's where hopefully it will be going, and hopefully it's going now. And it's being incorporated within the Navy and the Air Force and the Army. I do have buddies in the Navy that are using 3D printers as we speak, and it's just real cool. And
I know of another example. The Navy's been utilizing the BAM printers to print, for lack of better terms, like a people mover for like 6 or 8 divers that all get inside of this thing with their scuba gear, but this thing is powered, and it's like an underwater shuttle bus to take Navy SEALs into operations. And the government has realized that A, they can prototype a lot faster, and B, they can spend a lot less money. And the cost savings from doing one of those things from a traditional manufacturing method, was $1 million for their first prototype, but taking this thing into the BAM printer, I think they were able to get, if I remember the article right, their first 5 prototypes for under $500,000. So the military is starting to get a grip of this just a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and there's unlimited possibilities, right? Like injection molding, vacuum forming, plus other tooling methods that I'm not going to get into, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into 3D printing. It's not just additive manufacturing; it's additive, subtractive, everything into one, and they can get everything cheaper through additive manufacturing and 3D printing. And instead of taking a year to get their products, it's only months.
Robbie Mack asked here about, is it Robbie Mack? Yes. Insight or opinion on the future of print on demand versus warehouse stocking when it comes to the manufacturing in the U.S. I'll bring up one example is Ford talked about when they build a handle for a truck door, they have to build 100 for each one that goes on a truck in order to stock the warehouses around the world. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a percentage of those parts that are going to be moved to print on demand. We've been talking to several companies, working together to make that plan, to help them with that plan and figure out some parts it doesn't make sense to do that, or some parts the technology to make that part right now is very expensive, so it's cost prohibitive. But there are still a lot of candidates where that would make a lot of sense. So that's definitely a big topic. Converting even 5%, 10% of a gigantic warehouse into a a digital library for print on demand for sure.
Yeah, I could see, like, for your automotive, I could see the Ford dealer up the road having a couple 3D printers on a shelf that if somebody calls and says, hey, I need this little nylon linkage piece for my air conditioning in my truck, they go, okay, well, we don't have it right now, but we'll have it in 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever the time is for small parts like that, that you can actually utilize the same material that a lot of those parts are made out of.
Right. The biggest challenge, the biggest difficulty is trying to replace an existing part with 3D printing. And it's because people are thinking, okay, I'm just going to basically take that CAD data and just print it. But there are a whole bunch of specifications behind that. What the easier route is, but takes a longer time, is to start at the design process. So if you already start off with components that are designed to be 3D printed, and then you can set all the specs up front, then that's easier to move towards that, fully digitized warehouse.
Yeah, essentially you're better off to, like you said, design it that way from the start, because if you're trying to replicate something, it's really no different than any of us sitting at home printing a replacement part for something we have or a modified part. You have to take the original, you have to measure it and get those measurements, then still adapt it if it's an existing part.
Yeah, and then the other challenge also is, you print 1,000 parts, and you need those to be within a certain range, of quality, right? And so, what are the methods right now to confirm that, to check those? Non-destructive testing, various types of scanning, and taking a picture of every layer that's printed. So, and then incorporating error detection, for example. All that's just very early right now.
All right.
Another question for you there. I'm just looking. We're about an hour and a half into the show, and your reel's starting to look like it's filling up there. About how long does it take to do this? Full 10-kilogram reel. Screen there.
So it's about 45 minutes to an hour. It's 175, so it's most likely about an hour. I really started spooling it up, well, I guess in the beginning of the show. It's running a little slower right now.
Yeah, maybe about 30 minutes in or so.
Yeah, just about an hour ago, I think, that you started.
It's slowing up right now. Like it's
not running at full speed.
It's not at full speed.
It's not at like normal operating speed.
Yeah, Richard, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even realize Sean moved his camera over pointing at the spool. I had to lock the screen on so everybody watching can see that happening and see where the progress is.
Yeah, actually, can you click on it and make it full screen there so we can have a quick look?
Yeah, I did, so everybody on YouTube should be able to see it.
Okay.
You probably have to click on it on your end.
There it is. Yeah, I see it now.
Okay. Where was that? Tony Ryan asked what IC3D's take is on filament recycling and any future way to make it feasible. And I think he means taking a printed part, grinding it up, and reusing that, or a failed part or whatever.
So yeah, that's a tough challenge in terms of at the consumer level. Building a system to do that, we've certainly had lots of conversations, including with the Ohio EPA and stuff on that. That is a big challenge because of it. It really comes down to the control of that material. For instance, it is extremely difficult to detect different types of plastic within a batch. So when you're talking about taking that material and converting it into essentially the same product, that's very difficult. You probably don't want to use that material for 3D printing. Typically in recycling, it's materials used to create some like downcycled product, like playground equipment or whatever else, stuff like that. Internally, since we produce a lot of scrap, we're also trying to figure out a process to be able to use that in-house for also 3D printing. Like, for example, taking that material, because we can control the purity of that material, we can then process it and grind it and maybe feed that through a pellet extruder. It's still probably a bad idea to try to make the same quality filament and feed that into just a regular printer. But yeah, we're also exploring those options. But it is a very challenging problem for sure.
But you might be able to take that filament and print some parts to make some tables or shelves in the warehouse there.
Exactly, right. With a much larger nozzle, coarser beads.
Sean's thinking. You can see it. He's going, what can I print?
No, I thought I heard something on the line, so I was very.
Spool's still going.
Yeah,
Sean's thinking about printing up a
tell me
big
how it's
egg
going.
chair.
We can't see it on the screen and where we are.
So, with you guys being open source with your filament, can you talk about how? So, when it comes to 3D printers, there's a lot of debate about whether to go open source or closed source, and companies taking open source and acting closed with it. Like we've seen this last year, it's really kind of ramped up this past year about open source versus closed source. What kind of benefits, from a company's perspective, what kind of benefits do you guys get by going open source?
So I think, going open source, I mentioned earlier about, if more people are able to make filament, you have the higher chance of people trying out more different materials. And so for print service, that gets a lot more options. Plus, we can also support people and bring that up to a larger scale if someone's just doing it on a smaller scale. But I think, so one of the biggest questions that people ask, one of the first questions is, aren't you afraid that, tomorrow a bunch of competitors are going to pop up? And for us, I think if we were only making filament, that might be a concern, for sure. That's a real concern. But for us, making filament and making material is not the end game. For us, it's what you do with additive manufacturing, right? That's why we focus most of our efforts on building the printing service side of things. We're trying to figure out what the factory of the future looks like. How do we plan, set up a factory with 500 printers? What does that look like? What types of printers? What classes of printers do you need? How is all that network together? How many people does that take to operate? Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that's more valuable in the conversation, and so that's why it's not as big of a concern as most people kind of think when we talk about open sourcing materials.
Okay.
I think hopefully I kind of answered that question, but kind of straight off a little bit.
Also, it's just plastic, guys. It's just plastic.
Yeah, chill out.
Chill. Whoa. Stressing out.
First time I heard that you guys were open source filament, at first it was kind of like, the hell's that mean? Like, how are you open source? Like, and then, but the more I thought about it, the more, anybody
plastic that can print its own plastic.
I mean,
yeah.
I totally understand why some of the larger companies out there, especially early on, wanted to close it. I think it was all about. I think it was a lot about the controlling the quality of the product, and also warranty issues and that user experience. I can imagine it's very difficult to guarantee things come out as expected. If you were letting the customers put kind of whatever stuff they wanted to in the printers, but of course there's money making a lot off of cartridges.
Right. Have you guys seen or had to combat any knockoffs of IC3D? Like We saw with Hatchbox that there was supposedly knockoff spools being circulated. Have you guys had to combat that at all?
Not that I know of, personally. So with Hatchbox, were they using the same or very similar labels and saying it was Hatchbox and all that? Or?
Yeah, the labels would be really similar. Maybe some slight variations in it and stuff that you could identify. Like people would submit a warranty complaint with it that it was out of spec or whatever the case may be. And it would turn out that it's not actually their spool. It's not their labels. There were some differences in it and stuff like that.
Wow. No.
Being open
Thankfully,
source,
not seen
had
that.
anybody try to claim they're making IC3D filament.
No, we're not big enough for that yet, I guess.
I have Sean's camera pulled up right now. He's showing the tolerances on that 10 kilogram spool. Everybody watching on YouTube should be able to see that. For the panelists, you guys would have to click on Sean's camera.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, just to confirm, two lines, and I assume that you can run both at the same time?
Yes.
That was a question from Uncle Ron. There you go, sir.
All right. I'm not seeing any more questions from the chat. If anybody has anything else, now's the time to ask it. While we're waiting for that, does anybody else on the panel have any more questions?
Okay.
All right.
My free spools are in the mail.
Say that again, David.
My free spools are in the mail.
You're what?
Something about liking males. I don't know. Damn males.
Let's see. Nothing else from the chat. Why don't we go ahead and do our outreach or wait and see what they're up to. Looks like that's
John can really move when he has to.
You're gonna go ahead and shut down, right? Yeah, I'm shutting down. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the front and say you're shutting down and field any other questions.
while they're getting situated, looks like they're shutting the line down now.
Yeah,
There.
sorry about that. So Sean is shutting stuff down right now. I just moved back to the office a little more quiet to field any other questions.
I guess actually that raises a good question. So now you've ended for the day. You're done running spools. How long does it take for you to shut down the line? Like, do you have to wait on it for a certain amount of time to make sure things cool down, or you guys basically just hit the kill switch and?
It doesn't take too much time. We'll definitely turn off heaters and stuff like that first, but there's some other kind of cleanup to do. Make sure the air compressor's turned off and some other pieces of equipment turned off and put away. By that time, 15-20 minutes later, things are okay, cooled enough to kind of walk away.
All right. Something I keep thinking about throughout the stream that I wanted to ask. So we've seen Protopasta do their weekend filament session, class, however you want to call it. Have you guys looked at doing anything like that since you are more out closer to the East Coast?
I'm unfamiliar with that format. what they're doing?
Actually, Tinker's just jumped in the chat from Protopasta. So they're doing every so often they're doing a weekend thing, a weekend class where they kind of take people and tour the filament extrusion, and that they actually make their own filament. Have you guys thought about doing anything like that?
We host tours probably 2-3 times a week, and these are sometimes these are students, middle school, high school, to people at big automotive companies. You know, printing service customers. We'll just kind of give them a tour. So we're pretty much constantly doing that.
Okay. Keith says that the office isn't where the filament's made. No, but that really big. So what is that again? The model behind you.
Which is what? This thing?
Model, yeah, the model behind you.
Oh.
You show that thing again?
This is from Fallout 4, and this is a T60 power armor. So it's about 100 pounds of PLA, mostly printed. It was worn as a cosplay costume. Let me turn this back around here. So the person, let's see, that platform is about 1.5 feet. Stands on that. Straps that on his legs. Arms kind of go in there. This is on a PVC pipe frame, kind of like football shoulder pads that you put on.
That's pretty cool.
The fingers move with TPU joints, pulled by strings on the inside. Let's see here. You can see there, maybe.
Are you at liberty to say who made that one?
Yeah, his name was Yasu Tano.
That's pretty neat. All right. Are there any other questions from the panel or from the chat? I haven't seen any more pop up in the chat. So I think what we might do is we'll go ahead and do outros, and then we can pick back up if there's any other questions. If you guys want to, Michael, if you and Sean want to stick around and chat a little bit more. Usually we do the outros close to the 2-hour mark, which we're an hour and 15 minutes or 45 minutes in now. But then the stream can keep going, or we'll stop if we don't have anything else to talk about. So,
okay.
Why don't you guys go ahead and start the outros? Tell everybody again where they can get IC3D filament, how they can acquire your services if they're interested.
Yeah, so we're currently selling. Visit our website. It's IC3DPrinters.com. It is. We show who our customers are. You can see a logo page. See some of the customers we work with. Most of those are. It's actually about half and half printing service to filament. We sell to quite a large number of big companies like Disney, NASA, and those kinds of folks. We pretty much sell to all departments in the DoD. Yeah, we also have our stuff on Amazon, but to be honest, we kind of are shifting away from that B2C and preferring to work with resellers like Printed Solid. Yeah.
So my name is Sean. Hi. So I am an extrusion operator and the community manager. I do make the PLA, ABS, PETG that we do sell. On Amazon, you can get the ABS and you can get the PLA. The PETG is only from our facility, so you have to go to our website for that. But you can order all of that material off of our website, IC3DPrinters.com. And you can also see our print services there as well. You can also see us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Yep, and Instagram at IC3DPrinters. And then I have my Twitter account at Sean at IC3DPrinters.
If you're also in the Central Ohio area, you're more than welcome to stop by.
Yes, please come visit, see our facilities, make some filament with me. Please.
Columbus is a great city to visit. I spent some time there many years ago. Young, thriving city.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, it's a great town. If you come visit, we will go see sights. It's pretty. A lot of cows.
All right, let's go on to Chris. Chris, you didn't get to do an intro. I apologize for that. But go ahead and do your intro / outro.
You're going to apologize for me being late. So yeah, Chris here at mchrisp1 on Twitter, one of the founders of EARF. Just the only thing I'm putting out there tonight, only commercial, is we will be having an announcement coming soon before the end of the year for the dates for EARF 2019. So spread the word, the date is coming. And as soon as we have it, we will share it. Other than that, I want to thank Sean and Michael for the tour tonight. Very cool to see the inner workings. I've got some of your filament here in the basement. I enjoy printing with it, and very cool to see it all come together. And I'm going to come out there for the Murph pre-party. So looking forward to seeing it in person next year.
With that said, I'm going to jump back to Michael and Sean. Do you guys want to tell everybody about the pre-Murph invite at IC3D?
Yeah, so we're having a pre-party on Thursday before Murph, and we're pretty much just going to hang out and make some filament and chill, have fun.
I guess be sure to let Sean know.
Yeah, there'll be an official release coming out. There's going to be spots open, so we're going to do some type of Eventbrite thing. That way, there's not 1,000 people flooding into the streets. If that happens. So yeah, so there will be an official release and with information, what's going on and all that stuff. So then you can RSVP. That way we know how many people are coming and what to prepare for.
Okay. All right, over to David.
Hey, David Randolph over at Printed Solid. You know, we sell the IC3D. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You can find us, you know, over at printedsolid.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, the same whole wonderful spiel. Thanks to the IC3D guys for showing up, and also thanks to them for hanging out at work till midnight on a Friday. So definitely, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Richard, go ahead.
I'm Richard Murray with the ZDIM channel, and you can find me, you know, ZDIM on YouTube and ZDIM17 on social media. It's all down there. And yeah, guys, thank you so much. It was fantastic to see the process from beginning to end for actually manufacturing the filament. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
And I'm Matt from How I Do It. You can find me on youtube.com/howidoit. Twitter, I'm at Country Cowboy. And everywhere else, it's just Matthew Flinchbaugh. For the Friday night hangouts, the next one is going to be December 7th. That's the European stream. That starts at 20 UTC. And the next US stream is going to be December 14th. We're actually going to have Travis from Apyro Designs come on and talk about the Logos to Life projects that he does, and how he goes from a 2D logo for a company or YouTube channel or whoever's 2D logo, and how he comes up with the 3D design that he then prints and finishes. So he's going to be coming on the 14th. That'll be again at 10 p.m. Eastern. I forgot the topic for the EU stream. The December 7th EU stream is going to be Christmas or holiday related prints and also gift ideas for Christmas. or the holidays. The following European stream on the 21st of December will be a year-end recap. And I think we're going to steal that same idea from the European stream, and we're going to do that on the 28th for the US stream as well. Do a year-end recap since it is right before the new year. So as far as the Friday night hangouts, you can go to F3DPCH.com or Friday3DPrintingCommunityHangout.com. I advise the first one. To view the calendar, see the upcoming streams on the calendar. If you're interested in streaming, please get in touch with us. There's a form on the website that you can fill out to email us, and I will get the link to you to submit your information to become a streamer on the streams. And for those of you who already are hosts and co-hosts, we're looking for ideas coming up in the beginning of the new year. For topic suggestions, we're looking for hosts for both the European stream and the US stream. And there's also a form that's not on the website yet, but it is on our Twitter account for the viewers to submit topics and guests that they would like to see on the stream. We're really enjoying doing this guest thing on the US streams, and I'd like to continue that and have a specialist or a guest on every stream that has some kind of extended experience than the rest of us do in certain topics. And with that said, I'd really like to thank Michael and Sean both for taking time out of their Friday night, staying at work late, and showing us everything and answering our questions. I figured somebody would at least have to ask one question that you guys wouldn't give the answer to or wouldn't be able to. And you answered everything without skipping a beat. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the community does as well. So I would like to thank you guys one more time for coming on and showing us your process, and also inviting everyone to stop out if they're in the area to take a look firsthand.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity. It was really a lot of fun. Sean talks about you guys and talks about this all the time, and he was very excited and preparing for this and talking about it all week. So yeah, really cool to be a part of this.
Cool. Yeah, from the moment that Sean and I started talking about doing this for a stream, it was the moment it came up. I just looked at him and I said, "Can we do that?" He's like, "Yeah, I think so." I was like, "All right, well, here's the date that I have available. Let's do it." So I really appreciate you letting us do this, Michael. It's really cool, guys. So if you guys want to, you can continue to hang out. We'll continue the stream if everybody wants to keep going. I think there was a couple questions that popped up in the chat. Chris, I know you've been kind of paying attention to the chat. Did you see anything?
Yeah, there was actually a really good one that I definitely want to get the answer to. Michael, I know it's difficult running a business like this, and we just wonder, or actually Uncle Ron was wondering, do you have to break Sean out of the loony bin every Monday, or do they let him out to work without you at this point?
I don't know if you know, he lives here. He sleeps right next to the line.
Yeah.
So
under.
Yeah, I don't really have to do much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have my own air wipe.
There's another hopper with food.
Yeah. I'm like a big gerbil. It's heated.
Inject coffee and he's off.
So much coffee.
And it's called the water bath for a reason.
Know where your ABS has been.
There went the food safe rating. Anybody else see anything from the chat while we were doing outros that I might have missed? Oh, okay. Uncle Ron also asked, with your the fact that you guys build your own printers in-house, do you release your designs for your large format printers for people if they want to replicate one that you guys have?
Yeah, not currently, but we're pretty open about it. We can have a conversation about that. Mostly, we're not really like thinking about probably all the stuff, all the safety, kind of liability aspects of it. We're just trying to focus on creating the fulfilling our customers' needs for what the machine is for. So it's all the resources too in doing that formally.
And James from Print and Play, he didn't catch the beginning of the stream, so I did tell him that you showed off the arcade cabinet.
Yeah.
At the beginning of
it is.
I was going to say it's right around the corner.
Oh, it's right behind that sign.
There you go, James.
Which is friggin' awesome. Everyone loves it. Again, we give a lot of tours, you know, and this is always the thing that steals the attention.
And it still works.
Yes. So wish him the best on that, and glad to be working with him on his next top secret project.
Robbie Mack really wants his fluorescent brown.
I'll go get some Chipotle Tabasco sauce.
There you go.
Try to make that happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real hot bath.
Will IC3D be at Murph this year or 2019?
Yeah, we plan on it.
Cool. All right, that's all the questions I have.
Special request. I know. So I'm a huge Stargate nut, and I know that there was a kind of like a live stream or video where you guys were talking to David Hewlett. So everybody tweet him and get him over here. That would make me very happy. So yeah, that's it.
Do you know what his Twitter handle is? I can post it in the chat for you.
No, but I've seen his page. But
yeah,
Walter knows. Walter's the one who interviewed him for his stream.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to get him down here for Murph and to the Murph party here.
I heard he's a big 3D printer guy, and with his kids' schools or something like that. So that'd be awesome.
Cool. Michael, do you have Twitter?
Yeah, we just have the company one. I don't have a personal one.
Okay.
Yeah. I did for a minute, and then it got converted into the company one. I'm not a...
Same thing. It's his person.
I don't have the discipline for,
All right. Well, I think that's all I've got. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about besides filament manufacturing and what IC3D does? Michael, since you haven't been on the streams before, usually what happens is after the 2-hour mark, we either stay on topic or we go off topic. All rules go out the window at the 2-hour mark, which we're
yeah. I will sign off, and I'm sure Sean will jump back on his side. But again, thank you very much for the opportunity. The invitation over here is sincere. Anytime, just drop Sean a line. We'll make sure we're here. We're here. I am here most Saturdays and stuff too. So anyway, pretty open.
All times of weather. All types of weather.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But, yeah, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks again, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye, Sean.
Bye.
See you, Sean.
See ya. Bye.
All right. Well, that was cool. I like that one. That was different than anything we've done so far.
No, that was great. Learned a lot out of it. So
at first I was concerned whether we'd make 2 hours, but I mean, we hit 2 hours easily on it. So I hope everybody in the chat liked that one. And if there's anybody else that you want to see on the streams, we're definitely open to suggestions. I'm reaching out to people. The other hosts and co-hosts are working on reaching out to other people, both in the 3D printing and maybe on the outskirts of 3D printing that they're not using it yet, but they're looking at it. Even those types of people, we'd like to maybe talk to them too. So if there's anybody you guys are that you guys know of or have contact with, is even better. We'd definitely be open to any suggestions for topics and guests. We got Matt on here. last time, so we can get anybody at this point.
You don't know how hard that was to get Matt on.
Well, it wasn't too hard. I asked him, and about 10 minutes later, he goes, "Sure."
You don't understand. For the last month, I keep telling him every day, just go do it. Just go do it. Stay up one night past 9 and do it.
We gotta hop him up on one more cup of coffee, though.
Yeah.
I will admit, though, I got him hook, line, and sinker. I texted him and said, "Hey, will you come on the Friday night streams to talk about material properties of filament?" So that was his specialty right there.
Yep. It takes a lot of work.
Absolutely.
I think in the future we're going to have to cover multi-color or multi-material printing more, as we're starting to see. Well, we see the palette too back there. My multi-material unit shipped today, so I'll be starting to play with that. So, ooh, very nice.
This is for Robbie Mack.
Oh, nice.
Here's the cool thing about this. Now I'm gonna freaking hate myself for doing this. So this is all 3D printed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, 6 different materials. None of it is actually glued.
Oh, nice.
It's all friction fit. The tolerances are like spot on. As you can see, you take out one piece and they all start to come out.
Incredible, Matt.
And Chris got to see it. Now I'm dropping pieces. I better sit this down.
You know, we'll have to get the IC3D guys to come back on and do just tonight on their printer builds. Talk about large format building, what they're doing for that.
That would be a pretty good topic.
You know, why are they use? As soon as he said he's using lead screws on his Z or his X and Y, I was going, that seems weird even on a large one. But with a pellet extruder, I could see that. So that would be a fun one. I would love to hear their explanations for why. There's some of the choices they made.
Gotta love Robbie Mack. Yeah, no, that would be a really good topic. And obviously they're very well informed with it. They're building, what do you say, 3 or 4 of the 48 by 48 printers
At the same time, which means they're committed to their design.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. If you're building 3 at the same, multiple at the same time, and you're not building one to say, hey, does it work? Then you know what you're doing.
Yep. Or you think you do.
Got a pretty good idea, at least.
Well, my body's giving out on me, so I'm going to crash out. But it was great to be able to get back on.
Glad to have you back on, Richard. Glad your things are a little bit better for you, that you're able to get on.
Well, I was amazed. I was actually able to get on pre-show a couple of weeks ago from a hospital bed. So the nurse looked at me kind of funny. What are you doing? You're streaming from...
Bye, everybody.
Okay, have a good night.
See ya.
Good night, Sean.
Night, Sean.
Bye, Richard.
Thank you.
Night, all.
Go sleep under the machine.
He already dropped out.
So yeah, Matt, definitely probably want to look at doing a follow-up on the multi-material after the holidays, and
Yes,
all the folks have their new toys they've been playing with.
Yeah, we'll give them a month or so to play with it and kind of get a feel for you got the MMUs are shipping out. More people are getting them, and Pallet 2s just started showing up, I guess, in the last day or two. When did you get yours, David? Did it show up today or yesterday?
It showed up today.
Today.
Yes. It's still buggy. It's got lots of problems so far, but
Right.
it's young. It has promises.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for starting out the beginning of the year, maybe first or second stream into the new year.
Yep. There's a lot. And yeah, I'm highly opinionated on multi-material, and so is Matt. I keep buying every single one of these things. Every multi-material that's ever come out, I keep buying them convinced that someday somebody's going to prove me wrong on my theories. And so far they haven't. I'm just that good.
Dave, I'm honestly surprised that you haven't put together, you know, one of those diamond head mixers and calibrated all that out. You're of the technical capability to do so, but surprisingly, that's missing in your laboratory of goodies behind you.
That's because I don't want that nozzle.
Okay.
The nozzle is associated with them. I have one of those somewhere in a bin. And when I got it, I said, oh, God, no, I'm not even going to try and turn that thing on.
Okay.
I'm going to mute my mic here for a second because I'm about to smack this shield to put it back together.
I forgot where I saw it, but someone had it on YouTube recently. Someone made this kind of slanted horseshoe that had like 6 extruders on it. My favorite right now.
That's Paul.
Was that Paul's?
Yep, Paul's doing that.
That's my favorite concept so far. Yep. That's my favorite concept so far, at least until tool changers get fixed and figured out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely want to see his. I'm not sure what all his plans are, but just what he's got going on so far. And I was talking to him at the Printed Solid meetup in November, and it was actually pretty interesting where he got his inspiration from for that head and everything. Definitely can't wait. He was in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if he's still watching or not. So, Chris, did you finish your Ravens model that I did?
No, I'm waiting to get my my Black Friday shipment. and I was gonna give Dave about a hard time because I was up. I think I keyed in my order at like 12:05 a.m. I fell asleep waiting to do early Black Friday ordering. But apparently I ordered something too popular.
Yeah. Our system went way overboard and wasn't stopping certain things that, yeah.
So yeah, what I do have here. Let me grab.
I will put it this way though: everybody should have their stuff shipped by the end of the week or of next week, because we have every manufacturer hurrying the stuff to us.
So Matt, can I show this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I assumed as much. So hopefully this, but just like the model that Matt was showing before, so far everything's all snap fit, fits right in place. And hey Matt, there was a post, I think it was on the Printed Solid community page on Facebook. Somebody pointed out that if you do the Hurlburt fill for the bottom layers with the polyalchemy, it does a really cool effect. Might be worthwhile doing that Hurlburt fill on the purple and doing it on reversing it on the mirror so it's on the bottom side.
Which fills that? I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a fill that's available in not S3D. It's available in Slicer Prusa edition.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I want to try. I want to go back to these other slicers, especially with the problems with Simplify 4.1. I'm so happy I installed 4.1 alongside 4.01 because I've actually reverted back to 4.01. I've even proven I've taken factory files out of 4.1, taken them back to 4.01, and it's a completely different print. I mean, that's what I got out of 4.01 or 4.1. Okay.
Nasty.
That, hang on, let me grab this again. Is literally the exact same settings as the final piece. The final piece was sliced, the factory file exported out of 4.1 and imported into 4.0 and printed. No changes made whatsoever. And that's the difference between the prints. And it's
Wow.
not just one. I've got 6 of these.
Right.
Same printer, same settings, same everything. So, yeah, there's problems in 4.1.
Well, I downloaded Slicer PE last night, and I'm using that at least with the Prusa for now. And I might go ahead and download Cura and start playing with that for the heck of it.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to really mess with it, and I haven't in what, a year and a half. I haven't messed with any slicers except for Simplify. I did play with Slicer Prusa Edition a little bit when I got it working with my FlashForge Dreamer a while ago. But I've got so much stuff I need to print right now, and I have Simplify 4.01 dialed in so well that it's just, I don't have to worry about it. I load up the model, load up the material that I'm using, and hit print and the printer. But I just got, not that it's a new toy, but the Wanhao Di3 V2. I just got one this week, actually, from my cousin. I have my profiles from my V2.1 Plus that I used to have that I've been using out of Simplified, but I kind of want to just start using the other slicers on that one since I really don't have a baseline for it yet. So I'll have to check that out. Did you see... Shoot, mine's upstairs. My Raven's upstairs that I did. The top layers on that picture that I sent you, Chris, did you see those? How the top layers actually look like feathers on the polyalchemy?
No, I didn't catch that.
I wonder if I have that picture, if I can pull it up here quick. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. I'll try to find it.
Let me see.
It was in the last week, so I should be able to find it pretty easily. Oh, there it is. All right, let me switch. Share screen. There you go. Look at those top layers. The perimeters and the top layers together.
Yeah, it's fat. It's wide.
But the pattern on it is so freaking cool for the Raven, and then the fact that it's shiny and everything. That thing in person really looks like feathers. When you change the angle of it in the light, it's pretty freaking cool. And you can see that was my test one that I'd sent you, Chris, that I printed Thanksgiving morning.
What size nozzle did you use on that? I'm just curious because of how it looks.
That is a 0.8.
Okay. That's what I was going to guess.
Yep. I pretty much, I have a 0.6 sapphire nozzle that I got from Printed Solid for my CR10, but I pretty much print everything with the 0.8 brass nozzle. I got to figure out how to get my screen back. There we go.
Oh, look at that. Krusty made it on. What's up, Chris?
Is gyroids not what you were talking about, is it, Chris?
No, it's pretty sure it's called Hurlburt or something like that. Let me open up Slicer and see.
I actually have another one of those shields printing right now on the CR10.
And
hey, Ben finally woke up. Sorry, Ben, I didn't send you your wake-up call.
It's called Hilbert Curve.
Is that the one where it just like makes squiggles?
I think it makes curves in a weird pattern.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
But look on the Printed Solid community Facebook page. Somebody posted it up on there in the past week and a half at most.
You're gonna make me get on the dreaded Facebook.
I'm not making you. I just said.
But you're going to the printed solid page, so it's not like dreaded.
This is true. Hey, first thing I see on printed solids page is somebody else's Black Friday stuff, Dave.
See?
There's Dave's turkey.
Go look, because I'm curious.
Oh, the picture of Matt at the computer for the Black Friday stuff, was that actually purposely put over there, or did you guys just not realize the list was laying there?
They did it on purpose, I'm sure.
Wow, look at that list. That is no practical office document in the world.
Just look at the look on Matt's face. He looks a little uncomfortable. I can hear Dave saying, "Come on, let's do it. It'll be fun."
I can't believe when one posted the.
Sorry, that's exactly how it went too.
I know you two pretty well. Dave, I don't want to be doing this. It's okay, man. Shut up. I'm taking the picture. It's already gone. We're good.
That's exactly how it went.
Why am I not seeing this?
Same was true for the oopsie email.
Yeah. I like that one. That one, I'll tell you what. That one there messed with me for about, I don't know, 5 minutes at the most. Because I'm like, did somebody click on my email instead of Matt's by accident? And then it didn't take me much longer after that. And I'm like, wait. Harry and Lloyd.
That was my contribution.
Chris, I'm not.
I got him on board for that. That was Matt's contribution.
I like that one though. That was the tip for me though.
Oh yeah, we were trying to sneak it out there for people and have fun with it.
I'm not seeing the post you were talking about, Chris.
Huh. I'll do some looking.
Yeah, send it to me if you find it again. But I can also just load up. I have Prusa Slicer installed. I just don't open it.
You also know that if you remember our little open house Joel get together, remember how we already showed you guys the prices there? For
Snitches?
Yes. That was, we expected somebody to snitch somewhere. We really did.
No, the only thing we all did was said, hey, you really want to keep an eye on printed solid.
So I was expecting it, and we were kind of like, that'll be our first leak right there, and we were going, that's kind of why we're doing it. That was our first leak intentional.
Yeah.
And damn it, all of the people that came to the event were good, loyal, honest people.
Terrible thing to have, Dave.
I know, it's horrible. I need some shady, shifty people coming into the shop more often.
I'll be there tomorrow.
All right. Well, Carl was here today, so.
Oh, Carl was there today. Sorry about Nightbot Tinkers. I turned him off.
Yeah, I'm not finding it on the quick scan. It might be that the brain is going dead here, man. It might be time for me to call it quits.
Yeah,
so,
I think so. It was a good stream. On a good note.
Indeed.
Yeah. So for everybody still watching, the next EU stream is December 7th at 20 UTC. The next US stream is December 14th at 10 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be Travis from Apire Designs talking about how he goes from 2D to 3D for his Logos to Life projects and what inspires him for the logos that he picks to do. So that'll be the next US stream. And then the EU stream on the 7th is going to be Christmas holiday prints and holiday gift suggestions. As far as prints, I don't think they're actually talking like hardware and stuff for holiday gifts. Then December 21st is year-end recap for 2018 for the EU stream. And I think we're going to do the same thing for the 28th for the US stream as well. So, but the 28th isn't set in stone yet. That might change. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Chris, Richard, and Sean, and Michael from IC3D. Thank you, everybody who joined. And thank you to everybody in the chat. If you guys like this stream, hit the like button. And if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of the live streams when we go live, ring the bell as well, and you'll get notifications on your device. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Night.